Amazing! Morgana?
Seregios, Sergio, Pinecone, Steve, yo, whatever you call them. It matters not to me. Shoutouts to the most forgotten flagship in all of Monster Hunter. Now, today we're going to take a quick look at this guy because he's just that. He's forgotten. No one really talks about him. No one really cares about him. Capcom doesn't care about him. He's forgotten. The fans have, for the most part, kind of forgotten him as well. Hell, even the developers, like I said before, they've forgotten him. And just like myself, I am also forgotten. Hadn't made a Monster Hunter video in God knows how long. I don't really think I really want to because, well, the whole series is getting kind of boring to me. So I'm going to branch back out into the old series that I've done before. We are bringing back the monster analysis video, and we're going to look at one that I wanted to do for a while, but I've been playing my cards very slow, watching the hand, watching my hand, watching Capcom's hand, because I can't make a video talking about the most forgettable flagship, the most forgotten flagship, if they somehow bring him back, and then the entire video is just useless. So nevertheless, my man is still forgotten. He has seen zero shine. He made his debut in the 4th generation, Monster Hunter, I don't know, 4? Literally 4. And then we also got to see him again in 4U. So he was a monster who played a pivotal role, a huge role. They gave him so much love in the first game. The whole thing was, sure, Gore Magala was the main callous to everything, but at the 2nd act, or the 3rd act, I don't know, the act where everything was getting really turned up, that's when Seregios popped up. He popped up because his whole thing was, yo, I'm running amok. Literally, I'm coming into every and any environment, smacking everyone, just devastating all the area. Throw hands, let's get it. I will forever forget that very memorable cutscene where one of the characters, NPCs, they're looking up into the sky and there's just this huge swarm, like locusts, of just straight Seregios just flying into the area. They're probably gonna go and take over some other lands or some other areas and so on and so forth, but the thing is, it was so many that came in so much force. There's a couple of cutscenes where that was the case, where they would just come in and just swarm the Everwood, or because I remember there was another cutscene where the Lancer himself was actually fighting like three of them or something like that, because they all just popped up out of nowhere. And they even had an Apex form. The very first Apex monster, we're not talking about Rise here, that's a terrible game, but the very first Apex monster was a Seregios. You get to fight him in the main story. So he was the one that got you accustomed to fighting the Apex monsters. That was either good or pretty bad, depending on how you looked at it. For the most part, a lot of people hated the Apex monsters in the 4th generation, but I didn't mind him too much. But nevertheless, he was the first one you get to fight. He was the one that you kind of got your rocks off to kind of feel what was going on and to get a full understanding of what the Apex monsters were about. So Capcom was really leaning into that. They gave him plenty of shine. He wasn't primarily on the box art. They still gave it to Gore Magala, but clearly a flagship, because if I'm not mistaken, Gore Magala was the flagship before, and then Seregios was technically the flagship of 4U, but I believe on 4U, Gore Magala was still there on the cover. But then if you played on the 3DS, which most of you probably did because it's the only way to play, on the little icon, he was there. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at some actual footage, some cover art. But the point I'm trying to get across is, he was there. He's literally a flagship. Capcom was giving him all the push they needed for him to actually be a super memorable, a super lovable, and relatable kind of monster. He even got his own unique ability, literally, where you can just roll on the ground and sharpen your weapon. And his weapons themselves were super cool because they came innate with the ability. Just the weapons, you know? So good. So good. So, what happened? What happened to my mans? Where did he go? What happened? Seriously, no one knows. No one knows what happens to this guy. He made his debut in the 4th generation, 4U, 4 whatever. I'm pretty sure it's just 4U, and it was pretty good. He was also included in Generations and Generations Ultimate, the rest of the 4th generation, if you will, and was never seen from again. Heck, even in Generation Ultimate, they completely took all the fanfare away from this guy. Everything that was touted that he had before, completely gone. They didn't even speak on it. His quests were just in and out. Just another thing to kill. Wasn't even a key quest. Just walked in, kill him, or didn't kill him, didn't matter, keep it moving. So what happened to my mans? Well, I don't have the answer to that. If you wanted to really find the answer, I don't have it. But what we're going to do is we're still just going to talk about the guy. Let's talk about what made him, in my opinion, a really good flagship monster and why he wasn't himself even pushed even further. You have monsters like Zenogre, Rathalos, Rajang, who isn't even a flagship but has way more shine than that guy. Devil Joe, again, not a flagship, way more shine than that guy. I want to understand what people felt, because a lot of times this thing is just a huge popularity contest. If the fans like him, he will make returns and he'll be everywhere. If the fans don't like him, you won't see him whatsoever. So what is Seregios and what is he about? So in a nutshell, Seregios, or Seregios, whatever, anyway, what my man's is about: he is a flying wyvern. If you really want to classify him even further, it's technically a pseudo flying wyvern because he uses his hands and wings together or whatever. I don't know. It's a weird subcategory. Nevertheless, he's a flying wyvern. And the cool thing is, in the beginning, he was supposed to be a rival to that of Rathalos. Yeah, who'd have thought? A rival to the flagship of all flagships. A rival to my man Rathalos. I even had to go holler at my man Valiant. Shout out to the big homie Valiant. He even told me that the themes that these monsters have, the both of them, they are similar. Like, dude, what? Capcom literally tailor-made this monster to be the next flagship. I mean, with all the really cool things that he has with his weapons and his the special abilities within his weapons that carry on to, like, basically everything. Like, who'd have thought that a monster so brought up to be, so tailor-made to be the flagship is so easily forgotten? Well, outside of the fact that he is a flying wyvern, he does have his own unique, at the time, his own unique ability, element, if you will, I should say, where he would throw his scales, and then the scales would cause you to bleed, and then bleed was a new thing at the time, where you would take damage, similar to that being poison, if you kept moving around. You had to mitigate it by either eating meat, like a well-done steak, I think at the time moss twine jerky, or crouching for a bit, so that way it'll eventually take effect, well, the effect itself would fall off. But to have so many things made just for this one monster, so that way he could actually become something so great, so that he could actually be a mainstay in the series where people talk about him all the time, because he was a super quick fight. As a flying wyvern, that is the most cut and dry classification like ever. I think the only other monster who actually took it and took that to like a different level would be probably Baz. Because Baz was a flying wyvern, but he was like a seriously cool flying wyvern. And then Seregios is a flying wyvern, but a seriously cool flying wyvern. Not very often do you come across flying wyverns that are just woefully unique. And Seregios is literally the front runner of this. Because before flying wyverns was just Rathalos, or a slight spin on Rathalos, and they were slow and boring. Now, Seregios isn't full of defense, he's full of speed. Now, not Nargacuga is lame. Seregios was actually fast. My man will come across the land real quick, swoop you up, or he'll and then shoot the scales everywhere, flick you with the scales, you know what I mean? And then when you get hit with the scales, they like hit you like 3-4 times. You gotta let you, like, your chest bump out, and then you get tossed over. You know, like, he had so many cool things, and all this stuff was speed. All right, he would come in, like I said, he'd swoop in, shoosh, and like scoop you, or toss your palico, literally toss the palico, or toss you after a pin. Yo, the pin was so sick. He had so many cool things, and he had all these cool things about him, all these unique things, all these great features, ways in which you can actually fight, well, ways in which that he himself could actually fight, made you sit back and be like, yo, pause. This man is actually coming at me with such ferocity, like he's molesting like me and all my friends. He is waylaying the entire competition in terms of actual getting to you and spreading them cheeks. Pause. But long story short, he was a monster who had an amazing way to actually combat you as the hunter, you as the player. The only other monster who actually can do things similar to that is another flagship, Zenogre, the one who actually invented combos. He was like the front runner to that. And then Seregios was like, okay, let's take that and let's bring into our mainstays, typing the flying wyvern, and make it the one that does it. Make this guy the one flying wyvern that isn't so cut and dry, so boring, so lame. Again, with all the other things they gave the guy, the unique ability in the weapons, the fact that he was the actual first Apex monster, he was a literal flagship, he was the initial invader of the series. Heck, they took that invading property away from him in Gen, the very next game. They took away the one thing that he was literally like, this guy is literally an invader. And they just said, nah, we taking that back. They did the same thing to Bass. Totally weird. But all these things, all these tools, all these unique features, the bleed, the speed, the actual, the theme, the presentation, the story, the flagship status, all these things. My man was literally designed from the ground up to be like that guy. I want to say a different word. You know what I'm trying to say, but we keep it very PG around here. But it didn't happen. Now, I talked to a lot of people, and a lot of people said this. He's a cool monster. He's a cool fight. Great weapons, great gear, great gimmicks, all these things. Great, great, great. They sing his praises. But they say he's forgettable. And I asked him, why is he forgettable? Because we never have to fight him. You hear that? You never have to fight him. Out of sight, out of mind, right? Because Capcom doesn't put him anywhere. He's outside of 4U, he was nay seen. Now, I know someone's gonna hop in the comments, but Dak, what about stories? Stories don't exist, okay? Whatever. But in Gen, they took away the main unique thing about him. Not the main, but like a big thing about him. That's like they took away Rathalos' fireballs, okay? They gave up on the fact that he's an invader, and then they literally never seen him since. They haven't pushed him anywhere. He wasn't in any of the videos. He wasn't, I think they did like a 20th anniversary or 10th anniversary, I don't know, some anniversary anthology thing, huge picture, and he was on there, but that was the last time I seen him. He was in Frontier, but I don't think that really even counts anymore because that game is also gone. But Capcom just refused to actually put this man anywhere so that way the people can see him. I don't understand why he wasn't in World at all. I don't understand why he was in Rise at all. They just don't want this man in any of the games. And the thing is, he's quote unquote unpopular because, again, I said this was a popularity contest, and he's unpopular because they don't want to bring him into anything. Now, in Gen, they did bring him in there. They nerfed my man in Gen, but I think the problem that they had with Gen was that even though he had those really cool unique gimmicks, this was a game where they introduced the most power creep of power creep. We talking Bobby Digital and literally any deviant anything, okay? So no one was making his gear. No one was using his weapons, even though the gimmick was cool. Heck, they nerfed the fact that rolling was actually, well, not rolling, but being able to jump, roll, and skip and hop and all that. Because for you, jump, rolling, and skipping and hopping was OP. Shout out to the mounting. But all in all, before this goes on even further, it is on Capcom. Because Capcom just didn't want to really show this man any actual love, we never really get to see him in our eyes. And again, like I said, out of sight, out of mind. He had a lot of cool things going for him, but he was forgettable. Capcom didn't give him any more push after they gave him his first initial push, and then everyone forgot about him. Rathalos is in everyone's faces. That monster is ass, but they keep pushing him in our face as if he's godlike. He was literally in the movie. I understand why he was in the movie, but he was in the movie. You know who else was in the movie? Gore frickin' Magala. Another monster that we thought was completely absent from all the minds of anyone in Capcom ever, but he was in the movie. Yeah, I spoiled the movie for somebody, but guess what? That movie was also ass, so don't even worry about it. What I'm trying to get at here is Seregios, Steve, Mr. Pinecone, is the most forgotten flagship. Not because the players, we forgot him. We love this guy. A lot of people don't like him for reasons that I said, the fact that he's like super fast and he hits you and fights you really hard, but that's just a matter of get good. But for the most part, the fan base says he's a really cool monster, they really like his fight and everything, but he's forgettable because, well, I mean, Capcom doesn't really put him in any kind of pedigree. He falls over very quickly, he has no HP, he's in no other quests. It's on Capcom. But with that said, everyone, it's been your boy Dak908, aka the Dig Dug himself. Seregios is an amazing monster, but he's forgettable, and unfortunately because of that fact, he is the most forgotten flagship.